Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is our special episode on how quarterly earnings for the second quarter are panning out. And we are joined by the management of Pidilite Industries, one of the finest brands that is there in India over the last 4 decades or so. Mr. Bharat Puri, Managing Director at Pidilite, is with us. Namaste, Mr. Puri. Festive greetings and a very warm welcome to you on Business Today Television. What a fantastic set of numbers you've come up.
Thank you so much, Shell. Absolute pleasure being with you. Absolute pleasure being on BT. And, yes, our numbers are good numbers. When you have a good team behind you, I think the credit goes to the team.
Absolutely. Let me just inform our viewers about the extent of growth that has been reported by Pidilite. Second quarter profit, ladies and gentlemen, surged to 540 crore rupees, up 19% year on year. And sales were up 5% year on year to 3,235 crores. My first question to you, Mr. Puri, is how come the profit growth in terms of percentage is higher than sales? Are you selling more value-added products? How are the margins improving at a time when entire corporate India is having problems with margins, with top line, and of course, profit after tax? What's the secret of this success?
I think that's a great question. I think there are really two things. When input prices started moderating last year, we were one of the few companies that took price cuts early. We always have prioritized underlying volume growth over margin. We've always said that we will maintain our margins in a 20 to 24% range, our EBITDA margin. And therefore, we took pricing action much before the rest of the industry did pretty much last year. Now, as input prices have been benign, we have obviously invested back in growth. If you look at our underlying volume growth for the first half, we're close to double-digit underlying volume growth. And mind you, this is underlying volume growth. Our total volume growth will be over 15% if you look at total volumes. This is largely because, A, we're investing in the marketplace. Obviously, by investing, what do I mean? A, we're growing our core categories. A whole set of new innovations have been launched. Every one of our divisions has got new innovations in the market. I mean, to give you a few examples, in Fevicol, we have Fevicol Nail Free Ultra, which is a substitute for nails. If you want to do anything in your home now, you don't need nails. You just put this adhesive and you can, whether it's a towel rack or whether it's anything Now, this has been quite a success. We've launched a product called Fevicol Hyperstar, which is again a premium Fevicol. In Feviquick, we've launched a new range of premium variants which are flexible, which are waterproof, which are used for specific uses. So like this, in each of our divisions, we have a set of innovations which are also capitalizing on the premiumization trend.
Yes.
So really, if I was to tell you why is our profit growth healthy, A, of course, it is benign input prices. Secondly, it is premiumization and our mix and selling more value-added products.
Absolutely. And this comes against the backdrop of two very important and I'd rather say negative events for Pidilite, which is an extended monsoon and, of course, the aftermath of the general elections. Both have resulted in tepid demand for many companies in corporate India, but here's Pidilite coming out shining. Let's get into the nitty-gritties of earnings, Mr. Puri. How have overseas subsidiaries performed? Has their revenue growth been more than what the domestic business has thrown up? And what are the newer markets that you're looking forward to?
See, at Pidilite, we're very clear we want to be an emerging markets multinational. And if you look at the international subsidiaries, we're growing at a healthy rate. In fact, you'll be surprised. Our biggest international subsidiary is Bangladesh. Despite all of the issues in Bangladesh, we're actually still growing double digits in Bangladesh. So you can see that we have a resilient business there. Our business is focused around the Indian subcontinent, emerging Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And across each of these markets, we're growing at healthy rates. And, despite all of the issues that we're having around geopolitics, Red Sea, inflation, therefore, in Africa, but we're still growing steadily. And we're long-term players, Shell. We're never worried about 1 or 2 quarters. We are clear that these markets are markets of the future. These are markets where we have a right to win. we're consistently investing, and the good thing is we're getting results even in this environment.
Wonderful. Uh, Mr. Puri, you mentioned that volume growth was pretty substantial. I need to understand how much of fresh capacity new factories in Pidilite have come into action and are impacting the top line positively in the quarter gone by, which is the second quarter. And are you adding any fresh capacity in Q3 and Q4?
Sure. So let me just take a step back, Shell. We have over the last 3 years completely augmented and made our supply chain far more resilient and far more flexible. We have added 19 new facilities in the last 3 years. So it's not one, two factories, it's 19 new factories. And we are still looking at fresh capacities. You will see announcements about 2 to 3 new factories pretty much every year. So
Hmm.
at Pidilite, we are strong believers in the India story. We're strong believers in that India's growth years are still ahead of us. We are always operated about 70 to 75% capacity. The moment
Hmm.
we've touched level close to 75%, we augment capacity. So, I mean, to give you a perspective, last year we would have spent close to 1,000 crores on capex because we're investing for the future. Now, this is as part of our plan. Every year we spend between 3 to 5%. But as I said, we plan for the medium term, and now all of them are helping us. I mean, to give you an example, a business like tile adhesives, 4 years back, we had two factories. Today, we have seven of our own factories set up in the last 3 years.
Right. Uh, when you look at the new business growth, Mr. Puri, this is the beauty of Pidilite, that newer products over a period of 2 3 years start contributing dramatically higher percentage of revenue compared with what they were doing 3 or 4 years ago. When you break new business and how should I say traditional business, what has been the growth numbers in the new products that you've launched over the last 2 years?
See, we have a very clear strategy. We divide our business into three buckets: core categories, growth categories, and pioneer categories. Core categories are those where we already lead the market. Our job is to grow the category. So if you take a Fevicol or you take a Feviquick, we are clear leaders. Our job is to grow the category. How do we grow the category? We grow it via innovation, we grow it via increased sales and distribution, we grow it via premiumization. We then have a set of growth categories. In growth categories, you're competing against non-consumption. Take something like waterproofing. Even
Hmm.
today in India, 4 out of 10 homes do any proper form of waterproofing in their home. Our job becomes to expand the category rather than win share only within the 4 homes. You take something like tile adhesives. 1 in 4 consumers who puts tiles in their homes actually puts a tile adhesive to fix the tiles. That again, is a market expansion opportunity. So, second is the growth categories, which are competing against non-consumption or non-awareness, as I would say, and our job is to grow the category by expanding it. The last is pioneer categories. Pioneer categories, very simply, are tomorrow's growth categories. 4 years back, tile adhesives was a pioneer category, it's now a growth category. So, our objective remains that core categories should grow at a rate of GDP. If our GDP in India, the real GDP is growing about 7%, then we should grow volume 7% in core categories. Growth and pioneer categories should grow 2 to 3 times
Yes.
GDP. So if GDP is growing at 7, these should grow at 14 and 15%, which fortunately they have been doing for us, which is why we're able to. Now, if you look at over the last 3 years, we have a double-digit underlying volume growth. This just tells you
Hmm.
that our strategy is working.
Okay. And Mr. Puri, now comes a slightly, how should I say, controversial part of this interview, which is, FMCG rivals, not in the same space as you, but in the food space, are now talking about this, slowdown in rural and urban demand. Uh, New phrases are coming up that the middle class is actually shrinking. I find that very hard to believe because you are from the same space, although you address the builder part, not the kitchen part. I'm trying to understand uh, Pidilite's interpretation of this slowdown, if at all it exists, or are the other AMCs just uh, hiding their, how should I say, lack of management understanding of India?
See, if you look at the first half of this year, if you look back at the first half of this year, there have been a number of events that have, in a sense, impacted demand. It started with the elections. Now, when you have a 3-month election with all resources towards the election, labor becomes a shortage. There are issues of logistics. This was followed by a severe heat wave. And now this has been followed by a monsoon, which has been rather vigorous in certain parts, leading to flooding, etc., etc. And therefore, there has been an issue physically on demand and subdued demand as a result of this. Rural demand has been challenged over time. I mean, if I have to look at the last 3 years, rural incomes have obviously grown slower than rural inflation. And therefore, there is an issue as far as rural demand is concerned. Having said that, organizations, as I said, in a lot of our categories, we are competing against non-consumption. While everybody has complained about rural markets, we have actually over the last 3 years invested substantially in rural markets. We have an initiative called Pidilite Ki Dunia, which are Pidilite branded stores in villages with a population of 5 to 15,000. Just this year, we have added 1,000 new stores. We have 15,000 Pidilite Ki Duniyas now in rural India, in villages with populations of 5 to 15,000. We have added just in this year another about close to 100,000 new outlets. We now, today call on close to about 600,000 outlets across the country. So we continue to invest in India, and therefore, for us, not just this quarter or the last quarter, but over the last 3 years, rural has actually grown faster than urban.
क्या बात है Bharat ji, one particular question I'd like to ask is, I'm looking at your operating margins since the last 10-12 years. The entire screen is in front of me, and in March of 2013 your OPM was 15%. It's grown secularly year on year, and now at 23-24% in the quarter gone by. Would you sort of stick your neck out and uh, give us a gauge where OPM is headed? You say raw material costs are soft. Where are they headed? And my compliments for this wonderful performance on the OPM alone. Forget top line and bottom line. People sacrifice margins to get sales and profit, but you've shown a wonderful path where OPMs have risen, sales have risen, and profit has surged dramatically. What's the secret?
See, very simply, we've always guided that our operating margin, the EBITDA margin, we will operate between 20 and 24%. We know our products afford a certain premium in the market. We are clear how much that premium is, and we don't let that go above that premium. And we, therefore, in periods when there's been an unprecedented raw material situation, so on, we've obviously adjusted margins to the lower end of that business. But what we've done consistently over time, Shell, is two things. One is, we have strengthened each of our brands, which has therefore awarded us a greater equity and a greater premium, whether it be See, today, Fevicol is one of India's top 10 consumer brands. There is no other country in the world where an adhesive brand is amongst the top 10 consumer brands in the country. Now, whether it is a Fevicol, whether it's a Dr. Fix-It, now whether it's a Roff, whether it's a Feviquick, you will see that we consistently, obviously, invest behind our brands.
Yes.
We also invest very substantially behind sales and distribution. We would be the most widely distributed home improvement company by a large margin. And obviously, with this, when raw material prices are benign, when input prices are benign, you are at the higher end of the operating margin. So we are closer to 24%. When input prices are tough, so on and so forth, we are at the lower end, which will be now, of course, you're talking of 2013 was a different, over then we've strengthened ourselves as a company. But if you look at even 2020, we would have been at 18, 19 when, there was COVID and the raw material situation post Russia, Ukraine went out of hand. But we fortunately have the pricing power and the ability to manage that.
Mr. Puri, my final question to you, sir, is that over the last 18 months, we've seen the entry of a very deep-pocketed player in the paints segment. What is And you are a veteran of Asian Paints. You worked 16 years at Asian and now 9 years at Pidilite. Plus, you've had a wonderful tenure at Cadbury's and Mondelez. Tell our viewers, how is the paint landscape changing in India? How is the new entrant uh, either creating an opportunity for Pidilite or maybe causing pain to existing paint companies?
See, any new entrant with deep pockets and a clear action plan will obviously cause a certain amount of disruption. When I look at it from the outside, my simple thing is whoever continues to delight the consumer and the customer a little more than the others will win. The job of the incumbents is to see that the new entrants don't do that better than them. If they do, the new entrants will win. If they don't, the older fellows will remain in charge. But you and me shall both watch the space with a lot of interest.
you're being you're being very, very, how should I say, uh, uh, for the lack of a better word, neutral as far as the market is concerned. And why not? But one thing is for certain: no matter which paint a new customer or an old customer buys, the adhesive behind it will be Pidilite. My final question, Mr. Puri: so far over the last 4 or 5 decades or so, we don't see we see Pidilite as a great brand. We see fantastic sales, but none of the Pidilite's products are visible to you in the home. You are behind a tile, you are within a paint, you are on the roof, you are below the floor. Are there any moves where Pidilite comes and is visible to the naked eye of the buyer, in a sense that you are inside a home, but either in the wall or in the roof?
See, we see ourselves as a home improvement company. We already, for example, we're the leaders in the super premium wood finishes segment in India. We have a collaboration with the world leader, which is a company called Ica, which is an Italian wood finish company. Now, the wood finishes are obviously visible and these are very premium. They start at 500 rupees a liter and we've done extremely well. It's a subsidiary of ours. We are, as we've said, testing paints in rural and small town India in some of the states in the south. So at Pidilite, if I tell you more, then I'm also telling my competition what we're going to do. But as I said, we have growth and pioneer categories, and you will see us entering new categories every year.
So, is there a paints business in the offering?
No, right now, as we've said, we find that there is a right to win in rural and small town India, and that we're focused on rural and small town India.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Puri. Every interaction with you is immensely entertaining as well as a learning experience. We wish you all the best. And of course, festive greetings to everybody at Pidilite, all your employees, everybody at home. May the Fevicol ka jod remain as strong as ever.
Thank you so much. And again, festive greetings to all your viewers and to all of you at Business Today. More strength to you. Thank you so much.
What a pleasure, sir. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was Mr. Bharat Puri, the managing director of Pidilite Industries. A fantastic, fantastic set of quarterly numbers that the company has come up with. It promises further capacity expansion, maintaining of its record high OPM of 24%, and of course, higher sales and higher profits in the quarters ahead. Thank you for watching.